A very lengthy saga about Kevin and Melanie, my neighbors from Heck, by Lachey LaRose, with an update. I moved to a quiet village in England at the beginning of last year. My neighbor on one side is a nice elderly lady who lives alone. We'll call her Edith. We swap baked goods occasionally, and the neighbor on the other side was a middle-aged man. Around February, he got arrested and moved, and the house remained empty until a couple in their late 20s and early 30s popped up. We will call them Kevin and Melanie. It is important to note that I own my home, while their property is managed by a rental company that specializes in providing properties to people who cannot afford deposits. We are terraced houses. This rental company owns everything on the street up to my house. The houses are kinda L-shaped, with the bathrooms added to the back downstairs and then a yard bordering the bathrooms, making the properties rectangular. My yard is connected to Kevin and Melanie's yard, and my master bedroom and living room share a wall with their house. My second bedroom, office, bathroom, and kitchen share a wall with Edith. On the other side of Kevin and Melanie are a single mom who I'm friends with, Valerie, and her 16-year-old son, Tom, who is a very nice and respectful young man. Kevin and Melanie introduce themselves the day they move in to me and Edith. They seem fine, and for the first couple of weeks, they remain fine. And then the noises start. At first, it's just very loud TV and music. Occasionally, I hear raised voices and banging of doors. It doesn't bother me much. I spend my time in my second bedroom and office, so the only time I hear much of this is when I walk through the living room and hear the hum of whatever they're listening to. But it is much louder for Valerie and Tom, who share more property walls with them. Then one night, around 1 a.m., I am woken up to the sounds of them doing it so loudly, it's as if I'm in the room with them. This becomes a routine. Anywhere between the hours of 10 p.m. and 2 a.m., I get woken up and have to spend 20 minutes of my life listening to them bang. Sometimes, if I got lucky, it would be 2 or 3 times a night. And then sometimes in the morning between 6 and 9 a.m. Realizing that they are just not going to stop, I knock on their door and try to awkwardly explain to them that the walls are very thin and I can hear everything that goes on in their bedroom overnight. They pretend that they don't understand me, and then they slam the door in my face. Then the blazing rows begin. This couple seem to communicate only through verbally assaulting each other. They take a liking to doing it in the middle of the street, sometimes out the back of their house, sometimes out the front. It becomes apparent that they are taking drugs, and as the days slip past, they become louder and angrier. So I open a noise complaint with the council. Several houses on the street become very quickly fed up with them. After being assigned a nice lady at the council, we go through the process of sending them a warning letter. She tells me they will probably guess it's me because my main complaint is, "Lord, I just want to stop hearing them bone." I say that's fine. It's not fine. The day they receive the letter, I also receive a letter with instructions to download an app to my phone that records their noise. They kick off. Not at me, but at each other. This argument lasts 3 days, and on the 3rd day, I'm sweeping my yard outside when Kevin exits the property. Out of reflex, I say, "Hello." He kindly responds by telling me to freaking chat to me, you freaking snitch, I'll break your freaking neck. I put in a police complaint about threatening behavior, and a couple of days later, an officer comes to my house. I explain everything that is going on to him. He speaks to them, and they deny everything and scream so loudly I can hear them in my house. The officer comes back to mine, weary, and says he's told them to knock off their behavior and he's sorry he can't do more. I say that's fine. Once again, it's not actually fine. By this point, they have also gotten a puppy to add to the nighttime noise routine. At one point, I have to call in sick to work because the puppy has spent all night crying and howling, leaving me awake for bordering 24 hours. Meanwhile, both me and Valerie have been making solid complaints to the rental company, the police, and the council. The police are at Kevin and Melanie's house roughly 3 to 4 times a week for, I don't know what reasons. Through sheer coincidence, I stumble on their Facebook accounts and discover that they have 2 kids that have been removed from them. I wonder why. Kevin has multiple Facebook accounts. Melanie's account is just covered of pics of her kids covered in hearts, making posts about how hard it is to be a mom. I am Thanos snapped out of existence simply through the sheer power of cognitive dissonance. Suddenly, the puppy vanishes, inspiring another days-long fight after it emerges that Kevin sold it without Melanie's knowledge to afford something. Neither Kevin nor Melanie work, and this is often a fight between them two. I continue my council noise recordings. Their constant fighting does not improve the nightly sessions for me, although you might think that it would. The council lady comes out to install a decibel monitoring box in my house. On the day she comes, Kevin and Mel are having an absolute rager in the street, and she texts me to ask me to come out of my house and get her because she is frightened of getting out of her car. She installs the box, and the monitoring continues. A while later, one evening, Valerie goes out shopping at the local supermarket. Tom, being 16, takes a bath and plugs his phone into a speaker so he can listen to music. Kevin and Melanie decide that Tom's music is too loud for their taste. Instead of handling it like normal people, they wait until Valerie is pulling up in her car outside and then kick off outside, screaming that they'll screw her up, that he has just gotten out of prison and Mel is pregnant and he must protect his prego fiancé. Yikes. The police are called. They deny everything except that Valerie's Ring doorbell camera records everything. The police take what they can and pop away after warning Mel and Kevin not to interact with Valerie or Tom or any of their family who comes to visit. You and I both know that Mel and Kevin do not stick to this. Eventually, it gets far enough that the council lady informs me that she's been in contact with the rental agency and the police, and they are putting a community protection order on them. She sends them a letter telling them to knock off all their shenanigans. The lettings agency asks the landlord if he wants to evict, but I don't hold high hopes on that one, as I assume the landlord will want his sweet rental paychecks. That weekend, I am out doing some maintenance in my garden when they arrive home with a friend and have a loud and pointed discussion about how it is illegal to record people without their consent and how their friend fixes windows for a living, and if anyone gets their windows broken, he would ensure that no one in the area would come out for it because everyone knows him. I don't know him. I ignore them, I finish my maintenance, and as I am going back inside, Melanie hisses, "Disgusting lesbian," at me. I'm not a lesbian, readers and listeners, but I do have a visible pride flag in one of my windows. That night, they roam the streets and threaten Valerie's brother as he rides his bike up to see her. So, after this, I call the police again. So does Valerie. Valerie, by this point, has also involved her son's social worker, as Tom has learning disabilities and sometimes spends time in respite care, and his social worker is responsible for making sure that he lives in a safe environment. The social worker, Henry, after witnessing firsthand Mel and Kev's shenanigans, also decides that he's going to get the police involved. I decide to buy a camera for my backyard. I don't believe that Kevin and Melanie will do anything, but since they don't like being illegally recorded for the council, I'll do it some more. The police make an appointment to come see me on Tuesday. Me, Tom, and Valerie install my camera in my backyard on Monday. Kevin and Melanie come outside to watch us, so we have a loud and pointed discussion about the features of the camera, such as motion detection and anti-tampering devices. Because I know it ticks them off, and by this point, I decide that I'm allowed to be petty. I angle the camera on the wall so it covers my whole backyard, but none of theirs. But if you looked at the camera itself, you might think it does. So Tuesday rolls around. I arrive home from work. It becomes apparent that they are in the middle of one of their ding-dong rows. Melanie is stalking the back street, screaming about how they are finished. I have no idea how long this has been going for or what happened, but I know the police officer is coming and that this bodes ill. The officer arrives at my house about an hour later. We have a long discussion. He goes to see Valerie and Tom, and they discuss things too. Edith knocks on my door and asks for my help with her mobile phone and tells the officer some things that she's seen and heard. He asks me if he speaks to Kev and Mel, what sort of outcome do I want? I tell him that I want them to pretend that I do not exist, do not speak to me or about me or in my vicinity. I want to live in peace and quiet and for them to just shut up. That's it. I don't think this is unreasonable, but I do warn him about the argument earlier and the fact that I do not know if they are home right now. Officer goes to knock on their door. They are, in fact, home, and they lose their utter minds. Valerie texts me as the screaming begins, but from our houses, we cannot hear exactly what is being said. I pick up a few words here and there, but nothing that would allow me to string together the conversation. We wonder if the officer is going to call for more officers and other neighbors start opening doors in the street to check what the heck is going on. Eventually, Melanie slams the door in the officer's face, and he simply gets in his car and drives away. About an hour later, he calls me back, opening with the line, "Well, they are charming, aren't they?" which makes me feel vindicated just a little bit. He tells me they denied saying anything to me and that because there is no evidence, he can't progress with my complaint, which is fair and reasonable and what both me and the officer thought would happen. He does, however, then tell me that they complained to him about the camera that I put up the previous day in my yard. Their opinion is that I am recording them in their back garden, and that is illegal. But the officer disagreed and tells me that this really upset them, and they have said that they are going to make a complaint to the police separately about my camera, but not to worry about it because I'm not doing anything wrong and I installed it for my own safety. An officer might come to my house, but they will likely say the same thing. I tell him that I'm more than happy for them to come and look at my camera, and he wishes me well and hangs up. On Wednesday, I arrive home from work and pop into my kitchen to make a coffee. Seconds later, Kev and Mel arrive in their garden to watch me. It is just peeing down with rain. They have clearly been waiting for this all day. I do not look at them. I make my coffee and leave, and they go back inside. Today's Thursday. It's 3:30. They've been slamming doors and shouting at each other up and down the road. I am very tired, but they did not do stuff last night, so I got 10 hours of sleep. At this point, I think I'm simply going to have to put up with this until they start getting fines and arrest. But I'm super open to ideas that'll expedite the process, and well, it was cathartic to write this all down, and I could use some virtual padding. The brand new update. So, what can I tell you guys? I got home today from work and they have vanished. All the windows and the blinds are open, and the house is empty. No one on the street saw them leave. Edith saw the man walking into town this morning with a letter in his hand, but that was it. I'm assuming they had a van drive up the back streets in order to get all the furniture out, but my camera didn't catch anything. There is nothing left except trash all over the floor of the living room and some of the kitchen. They left dog crap all over the yard. The gate is broken, but they must have untied it, and it's just miserably swinging in the breeze. I did phone the lettings company to let them know, as yesterday they were offering Avon catalogs to people on the road, but I probably won't find out what happened. It's none of my business. If I had a guess, I knew that in special circumstances, the lettings agency could order a 48-hour eviction notice. So I am wondering if they received that and have appropriately Thanos snapped themselves out of my life. They may still be in the area, but I honestly don't care. I am free. It is over. I have ordered myself a celebratory KFC. As much as I want to know what happened for sure, I'd just be glad that they were gone. OP, so glad to hear that everything is good, and what a pleasant surprise for you. My racist, thieving, trespassing neighbors, posted by Gingerbread1313. This is going to be a long one, but I'm angry, so here we go. For some context, I, a female in my 20s, moved some states over for college, but it didn't work out as I struggle immensely with anxiety and depression. When my mom came out to visit me, she discovered that my apartment basement was filled with mold and had the crazy idea to buy me a fixer-upper home for stability while I got better. Her plan worked, by the way. I graduated and I'm now working in a hospital and beginning to pay my mom back. I know her plan was crazy, and so much. I am forever grateful for the chance that she gave me because I would not be here today without it. But I digress. In the summer of 2021, we found a house, cute little Italianate built in 1869. Needed a ton of work, like electricity, bathrooms, and kitchens. This was a fixer-upper. But I loved it, and my mom loved it because we like old things. The best part of the house is it can easily be divided into a duplex, and we plan on renting one half out. There was one problem though. There was a garage almost behind my house that the realtor claimed was our garage, which made sense. It was so close to the house. We didn't think much of it. My mom bought the house and I moved in January of 2022. 2 weeks after I moved in, my next door neighbors, renters, moved in next door. Straight away, they were parked in front of my garage. So I went out to inform them as politely as I could that it was my garage and they could please park elsewhere. My neighbor, a male in his 30s, let's call him Gunner because he has an equally stupid macho name in real life, told me that I was wrong and explained to me that the property line was at this weird angle, so even though the garage was behind my house, it was on his property. I was so shocked, but he showed me a tax map and he was correct. He pointed to some old standalone fence posts between my backyard and his driveway and garage, fence posts that I previously assumed were remnants of a backyard enclosure, not a property division, and he noted that they were at a slight angle like the tax map. He was right. So I stood at the end of the driveway with him and adjusted where I stood until the fence post lined up with my eyeliner. "So this must be the property line?" I asked him, to which he immediately denied it, because I was standing in the middle of his driveway. He went on to claim that the property line must either go through my house or around my house, since the driveway was 100% his, apparently. Further, he claimed that his landlord promised him they could park their cars side by side, implying parking in my driveway in front of my house, which was ludicrous, although a neighbor later informed me he saw them doing just that at one point. So we're at an impasse here. Gunner had shown me the tax map, and it seemed clear that the diagonal line did intersect the driveway halfway, judging by the old fence post and the way his garage, my shed, and my house were all lined up. But he claimed the entire driveway was his, so we had to clear this up, and fast. How to do that the best? My mom hired a surveyor. That was a thing itself. When the surveyor found the property stake completely on the other side of Gunner's driveway, showing the skew was more diagonal than the tax map showed, Gunner decided it was a good idea to go outside and scream and yell at the surveyor like a toddler that, "This can't be right. If this is right, then I don't have a driveway." Reader, they had plenty of space for a new driveway. But the survey was right. The fence posts were actually off kilter. Gunner continued to harass me, even going so far as going outside late at night to watch me park, to ensure that I didn't park on his property, I suppose. He and his girlfriend, Karen, had continued to yell and harass me over the property, even after we all knew it was mine. I even found it ridiculous they cared this much, since they are simply renting the house and the landlord didn't seem to care at all whenever we contacted him, but I digress. We got approval from the landlord to properly mark the boundary line, and in doing so, Gunner came out to scream at us that we were breaking the law, that changing the tax maps was illegal, and my mother suggested that if we were breaking the law, we could call the police for him, and that shut him up rather quickly. From then on, things quieted down a bit. I ignore the jerks next door, they ignore me, and life moved on. Slowly, though, they began to forget. They drove over all the property markers that we set up, destroying them. Staying on your own driveway must be absolute rocket science, judging by how hard it was for these people to do. But one day, Gunner saw me in the backyard and randomly proclaimed that we were too close to neighbors to hate each other. I was all too eager to bury the hatchet, so I immediately agreed and we began to talk. While talking, he complained about the whole situation, making my mother out to sound like a crazy woman who was in the wrong, and he admonished me for daring to call the police since he and the cops don't mix. I'm no fan of cops either. What else was I supposed to do? Well, I am non-confrontational and anxious, so I sort of crumpled and apologized for every single thing. It was in this conversation that he casually revealed that he occasionally steals my firewood for his fire pit. I was shocked. I had noticed absent-mindedly before that the woodpile was smaller than I remembered, but this made it click in my mind. Gunner and Karen have a fire pit, but they don't have any wood of their own. At the time, it looked like that they had stolen 30 to 50 logs, including all the logs that I had split into quarters for my own wood-burning fireplace. Gunner invited me over that same night for beers in his garage with him and Karen and some of their friends. I was still in shock over the firewood, but I agreed. Of course, at the small party, Gunner and his friends proceeded to steal 3 logs while I was there. All the while, Karen was desperately whispering through clenched teeth that I was sitting there. Obviously, someone knew it was wrong, but she didn't apologize either. Besides that, it was an awful party. Gunner is extremely racist, referring to rap music as a slur, and then saying that slur no less than 20 times the entire time I was there. In front of his young children, no less. He and Karen repeatedly swore and cursed and made sexual jokes and references in front of children as young as 2, which I found highly inappropriate and distasteful, but maybe that's just me. I left the event not knowing what to do, but I worked up the courage the next day to ask him kindly to no longer steal. Karen didn't even look at me, and all Gunnar did was laugh it off and say that he had stolen one too many. I took a photo of my woodpile for comparison purposes further on and went about my life. I graduated school, I got a job, and finally had the time to check the pile today. And what do you know? 20 to 40 logs gone. I lost it. Right after doing a freaking blood donation, I moved all the firewood inside the shed, and I locked the shed with a brand new padlock. I'm so done with these people. There's so many other details that I left out, but Gunnar constantly claimed everyone loved him so much. Wonder how much they'll love him when I tell all the kindly neighbors how big of a racist, lying thief that he is. Can't wait for the shed. Also, I want to note that after finding out that he stole from me months ago, I didn't tell anyone, wanting to give Gunnar the opportunity to do something as simple as not steal. I also forgot to mention that they keep their dogs chained up outside all year, even in the New England winter. Not huskies or anything, mind you, short-haired, sweet dogs. Sean BZA in the comments says, "Hi Sean, why have you not both laid a charge against them and recorded them screaming at you and gotten at least the paperwork started for the landlord to either evict them or sit with the lawsuit is silly. You need to stop letting them run over you and get both cameras, cheap enough now, to record them stealing the wood and tell their landlord that you're going to hold him accountable for any time they either steal your wood or trespass on your property or scream at you or drive onto your property." OP says, "Unfortunately, there's nothing to do about the dogs. We tried. I live in a small town and there's no law about tying your dogs up outside. Stand your ground, OP, because if you don't, he's going to continue to take advantage of you. How would you handle this if you were OP?" HOA lawsuit. I put a lien on the president's $20 million mansion because of his illegal activity. Click the video on your screen. You don't want to miss a crazy fallout here, and I will see you there.